Yes, there's multiple charges that are stemming from this.
Okay. Do you want to sit down and go through those?
And not in the back there with you.
So where would you suggest we do that then?
We can either sit right here or you can sit outside.
Okay, where would you want, I don't want to sit right in front of the detachment, in front of the doors, okay? There's another bench over there, but it's fairly public. We do have trucks parked in there. If you want to sit on the end gate, that's fine as well, okay? Now I'm giving you options, right?
Oh, what about standing in the parking lot over by where?
Because this is a public parking lot, that's a police parking lot. I'd sooner just do it where people aren't going to be walking by, okay?
As long as they're there, that's no problem for me.
Yeah, that's fine.
All right then. Okay, then let's go.
Okay, so you're gonna carry the papers and hold on to them and go through them?
Yes.
One at a time?
Yes.
Okay, I'm gonna start audio statement then.
Go ahead.
Okay, I'm just gonna fire my recorder up here, okay? We'll go outside first and I'll fire it up.
Yeah, but sooner do it where there's not a pile of stuff. So where would you feel comfortable? With all these vehicles, let's go along the sidewalk into the parking lot. That's why I was saying I could probably pull a truck and drop a tailgate or something. You want to drop this in this one?
We'll go to that gray truck there, let's just put it over the bed, so you can actually talk, and we can spread the
It's
papers
fine.
out.
Can you just bring it over here, please? If you want to, that's fine. But I'll just be, this is here.
Okay, just
fine.
one second, I'm just gonna fire this up here, okay?
Okay.
Constable Roy, today's date is July 3rd, 2020, at 1612 Battlefords RCMP detachment. Here with Dale Richards, right? Richardson, regarding file 2020-898119. Okay, Dale, why don't you tell me what brings you here today?
I have a number of complaints that I'd like to make. One starting with the mediation that happened at the North Battlefords Seventh-day Adventist Church, which was February 17th, I believe.
Okay.
2020.
Dale, have you made this complaint prior to police already?
No, I did not.
Not this one?
No, not
Okay.
this one.
For sure. I just want to make sure that we don't have multiple files in the same,
No, there's
same one.
information that discussed it, but I never made any formal complaint about it.
Okay.
So.
And you'd said there was other things too. There was domestic violence and something else.
Yes.
Okay. So what are all the allegations that we're talking about here today?
Okay, we're gonna just go this one at a time. So we're gonna start off with that mediation. And looking for something here. Okay. This is based on this one here, which this would fall under that. My wife had an incident at the Seventh-day Adventist Church, which the RCMP was called on the 15th of February
Of this year.
of this year.
Okay.
My daughter, she made a complaint about that yesterday.
Okay.
The RCMP were called that day because my family came from Calgary. They came to bring her from the hospital. She came here to stay by her father to get some help because she was assaulted and she was sexually assaulted repeatedly. And she had come here so that she could get back on her feet and have her father help her.
Okay.
My wife, she hates my eldest daughter, and she's multiple times spoken of that, and there's many text messages and so forth that support that. She said it openly many times.
Okay, this is your ex-wife or your current wife?
I've only been married once.
Well, I don't know. That's why I'm asking.
It's my current wife.
Okay.
We're still married. Yes.
Okay, I just to get this.
Yes.
Okay.
So she came in or she had messaged me and said wanted me to bring our daughter out, and many times she's fallen asleep in church. But at that day, because she had some issues with my family, decided that she wanted to come. And that's what I'm assuming it is, because I can't say exactly for certain, because I cannot say what the intents of her mind was. But based on previous actions, I'm taking an educated guess. Either way, I said if you have an issue, I would like you to come in and talk to my family and tell them why they can't see their relative, why my mother can't see her grandchild, and why my daughter, eldest daughter, her stepdaughter, couldn't see her sister. She stormed inside the church, and I'd already sent Keisha over to put Karis to sleep in the mother's room. And I know that they have issues, so when I saw Kim walk in, storming in, very angry, with a level of anger that I've never seen her with before, I went over to the mother's room and I took the child because I didn't want her to deal with Karis in that fit of rage. She slammed the door and held a man in there and did not want him to go. I ended up going around to the other side of the church, and she came after. We were sitting on the bench with my mother, my eldest daughter, and I was holding Karis. She was screaming at the top of her lungs. She was so loud the entire church stopped. They started to pray. Okay? And after that, the police were called because she assaulted my daughter.
Okay.
Okay? So the church member, Cyprian Bola, advised us not to call the police and not to press charges. He took us upstairs, and there was a few of us that had sort of a schedule just to get things going until we could get something going forth.
This is the mediation you were talking about?
No, this is not the mediation.
Okay.
This is just a couple people after church.
Sure.
I'd already identified to my wife and to the pastor and other members that I was struggling with severe depression and anxiety in addition to my ADHD. Okay, and I talked to my wife for months about the levels of the depression, and sometimes she would tell me when I would ask her for mercy on fights is that the dying would be the best outcome in this situation, me dying, speaking of me. Okay, so I've been subjected to numerous amounts of psychological abuse to this point. After seeing my daughter, my youngest daughter, and my oldest daughter being assaulted in that vulnerable position, and my youngest daughter out of sorts, my wife was talking to me about the time. I said, listen, I need some time. I'm having a difficult time dealing with this. After watching my youngest daughter pulling her hair as hard as she can, and she was like, when are you coming, and pressing me, not concerned at all. Nothing in the text message said anything is how is Karis doing, our daughter. It was all about me. And when I said I can't deal with that, I said I'm going to go to my family's house for a few days in Calgary and come back. Yes, because for that situation, what am I supposed to do? I called a crisis line that night, and they told me not to go back, that I should go somewhere safe. But I needed to go get clothes. But when I went to go get clothes, she had the locks changed. Her father was there, her friend was there, and I brought my mother. If my mother wasn't there, they would have locked the door and left me. I wouldn't have cared. Right? And so I called the RCMP that day, and the woman that was there, she said that the way that she saw Kim acting, she said that she was doing it out of control. That's what the female RCMC that attended the place.
When that was here as well?
That was here in North Battleford.
Okay. And
Yes.
how long ago was that?
That was on the 17th
Of
February,
okay.
when the mediation took place.
Okay.
So Kim had already said that she wanted to have a mediation set up. She had told me in a text message, which is included here,
Right.
of the people that she was going to talk to, which included Clifford Home.
Okay, can you show me which text message we're talking? I just wanted so that I can keep kind of. That's why you brought the text message, I presume.
Yes. Right here. This is where she said that she apologized to Jeannie, John, Mason, and Cliff. And then she also said, yes. And this is where she said, I will contact Don, Gary, Cliff, Maisel, James, Jeannie, Cyprian. And she said, and you can add others if you wish. But at the point that I was at, I was under tremendous duress.
So what is she? She will contact them.
Yeah, she contacted them. She was the one who set this mediation up.
Okay.
And she contacted the people there.
Okay.
Right? So she said, after she came there, and I noticed that the locks were changed when I was leaving to go out to meet someone for a meeting quickly before I left, and my mother was in the house. I noticed the locks were changed, and I came right back.
Okay.
And that's when the RCMP was called, because she couldn't lock me up because my mother was there.
Okay, so we.
This is back on the 17th
Right.
of
So
February.
this has already been investigated by the RCMP, or they were already called to this?
No,
right?
they were called that day because I was like, what's going on? Because she had the locks changed and everything else like that, and I was like, well, you know, I felt quite deceived at that point in time.
Sure. So what was the conversation that was had? Was there any issues about? Did you want her charged or with anything on that day? Was there any conversation about
There
that?
was no, and she had preemptively went and made a complaint to the RCMP.
Okay.
And so forth. For what reason, I don't know, and I don't even know what they say, because there's this continual thing that I noticed throughout this thing is where everybody keeps telling me that they're afraid of me. My wife is the one who's put her hands on me repeatedly.
Okay.
She's even gone through my phone and deleted some of the times where I've documented when she's assaulted me. And I've got documented, and I'll bring the dates of the times of the documentations of the assaults.
Okay.
But there's, with this mediation, they set it up, and I came in to talk to me, and my daughter, this mediation was one of the most disgusting things I've experienced in my life.
Okay.
They were minimizing the effect of my wife's actions, screaming and assaulting my daughter in front of my youngest daughter, and minimizing those effects. In December, I can't think of the date off the top of my head, but she had come into the mother's room while our daughter was falling asleep.
Just gotta bring me another battery.
Yes,
Because this one's starting.
in her arms, in my arms, and stormed in there, ready to punch me in the face, while I was holding. Just trip this.
Yeah, that's good. Thanks.
While I was holding my daughter, our daughter, and then she ended up that same day after spitting in my face. Okay, like constantly browbeating me over the course of our relationship. I just wanted to have some time to relax. I've had full custody of my oldest daughter.
Okay.
And her mother and I still talk because we have a child, and we're not here trying to make any problems with each other.
How long have you had full custody of your
Since she was probably about 3.
Oh, okay.
I
She's
got-
lived with you full time?
Yes, and I had to get custody of her from Child and Family Services in Manitoba because they were quite racist. And I had to write a 13-page letter to multiple agencies before they admitted to the wickedness that they did, because everything that I did they told me that it wasn't good enough, even though the psychiatrist and the psychologist and every person that they tested said there's nothing wrong.
Okay.
You know, and I still sent her to see her mother and her family, her grandparents. And I did not withhold her. When I said I was going to Calgary for a few days, she had absolutely no reason, based on my previous actions, to think that I was not going to return. I've told her multiple times, it doesn't matter how much I hate someone, the love for the child must be greater than the hate for that person, because a child needs both of their parents.
I agree
because
with
they have their DNA, and they're going to need to know where certain parts come from. Okay? When they set up this mediation, they were just being racist towards me. They were pressuring me to throw my daughter out onto the street in a vulnerable condition.
Okay.
My wife went in and, behind my back, broke into my Facebook account, took conversation between me and my daughter and brought them out and just put them on front of me and started to say that my eldest daughter cannot see my youngest daughter. I fell to my knees and turned to her and said, "What more do you want in my life?" After they were browbeating me, Cyprian was sitting beside me laughing at me, saying that, "Oh, you have no case, you have no case. What are you doing that for?" Watching me, a grown man, cry. I've been stabbed. I've been beaten within an inch of my life. And I've not cried. When you take a man who loves his family, I was going to school to become a doctor. I gave up everything to go get this child. I would do anything for my family. But when you see a man that will do anything for his family, and they do this,
Okay, so are we at
the
so
mediation, they're telling me that the woman, the wife, has more rights than the child and the father. That contravenes Saskatchewan law. They told her that the actions that she took towards me and how she affected her daughter were no big deal. They did not want to believe anything about her abusing me, about when I have years of documented evidence.
Okay.
She has done this in front of people.
Was there ever any reports about her doing that beforehand? Like, had you ever called the police or had the police involved in your guys' relationship prior to that time?
No, but she called the police on me when I was in Calgary. They told her to leave because of the way that she was acting.
Okay. Like when you're talking about mother's rights outweighing the father's rights or all that, that's family court, right?
Yes, but what they're doing is they're saying something that's in violation of the law. You see, in a church, and they're also a not-for-profit at the same time, and many of those people were officers in that not-for-profit. They are under obligation, both by the civil law and the biblical law, to give the best possible advice based on both Christian and civil principles. They were out of order when they said that, because it was against the law.
And there were, like, what do you mean by officers in there?
When they're church board members, they're
Okay.
considered officers. At the time, I was an elder in the church. And actually,
So I'm sorry, you have to excuse my ignorance. I don't know the hierarchy
I
of the church.
need to get some water here. My mouth is dry.
I'm just gonna change this battery out, then Bill, if you take a break here. Okay, recording continued. 16:28.
When I am under duress, I have a hard time being able to say the right words.
Sure.
My wife knows this.
You want to hold your?
Yep, sure. And everybody else that knows me knows this. And at that time, I could barely say anything. And they're saying all of these things, and when I'm sitting talking to them, they're disregarding what I'm saying. When I tried to talk about how my wife had kicked my eldest daughter from behind when she was walking out the door, they disregarded that and didn't say that was a problem at all. No one said that, you know what, you shouldn't have done that. Not even once. But they talked to me like my family was trash. They said that my eldest daughter should not be left alone with my youngest daughter. They said that she should be able to sleep every night with her mother and not with her father because the mother is more important. That's discrimination. One woman told me that we should keep Dale around so he could teach Karis how to be black. That is disgustingly offensive in many ways.
Yeah, I totally understand that.
Yes.
That's not illegal, but I understand
wait.
where you're coming from.
Listen, based on the reading of this
Mm-hmm.
law here, they were discriminating me. They were taking advantage of me in my vulnerable position to throw this woman out in a vulnerable position. That constitutes torture according to section 269.1.
Okay, do you have that section here, Dale? I
That
don't have it
section
here.
is
I don't
right
have
here.
it.
It is right here.
And do you have the annotations with that section by chance?
Yes. Torture means any act or omission by which severe pain or suffering, whether physical, mental, is intentionally inflicted on the person for the purpose including obtaining from the person or third person information or a statement, punishing the person for an act that the person or the third person is committed or suspected of having committing,
Okay.
intimidating, coercing the person or a third person for any reason based on discrimination of any kind. And there's also a no defense clause. It is no defense to a charge under this section that the accused was ordered by a superior or a public authority to perform any act or omission that forms the subject matter of the charge that the act or omission is alleged to have been justified by exceptional circumstances, including a state of war, a threat of war, internal political instability, or any other public emergency. That constitutes torture under that act.
You understand what they mean by torture in this act, right?
Yes.
And they're talking about, in torture in this act, they're talking about war.
No, it does not say war.
It says.
It says.
But I'm not gonna argue that that's actually for a lawyer, and I'm not gonna
listen.
do that, right?
From the reading of it says, it is alleged to have been. It says this. There's no defense based on these circumstances. It doesn't say war.
Right. But
Right?
that's,
Because hold on. Let's look at this. Omar Khadr, which Trudeau gave
I'm
$10.5 million.
Yep.
Right?
I'm
It
aware.
wasn't a state of war. He was in Guantanamo Bay, and they were depriving him of sleep. That was constituted as torture
Sure.
under the Geneva Convention.
So Dale,
Whoa.
no, just wait. I understand. I'm familiar with that case, right?
Yes.
As a Canadian citizen,
okay.
I know it.
Okay then.
So what I'm asking then is, I'm still trying to get to what offense you're alleging that she did, and then so I can actually investigate.
I'm saying the Battlefords, church members of the Battlefords Church at that point in time, they violated this law.
What you're saying is they tortured.
What do you think? What do you think they were doing when they were trying to make me, in a point of my lowest weakness in my life, throw my daughter out onto the street, who was just violated, both physically and sexually, and then by my wife in the church?
Okay.
And they were forcing me to do so. They were also trying to force me to go against my conscience, compelling my conscience. That constitutes torture. My mother came to see me, and they refused to let her in.
Okay.
Because if she saw what was going on,
I understand what
it
you're
was
saying, Dale.
disgusting.
Who was all in the room when that happened?
There was James Kwan,
Okay.
Maisel Holm,
Okay.
Gary Lund, Don Lund, and Jeannie Johnson.
Okay. Has this ever been brought up? Have they ever been spoken to about this circumstance?
I've tried to talk to them about this.
Okay.
I wrote them emails, and I will actually supply all the email communications where I've tried to talk to them using a biblical manner, because I'm a Christian, and because the Bible prohibits going to law with your brethren unless it is absolutely necessary. And so I followed that to the letter, because that is what I believe.
So,
Okay.
so basically what you're saying, I'm just going to summarize here.
Yes.
Okay. What you're saying is, through the course of your relationship with your ex-wife,
Yeah.
she caused you turmoil and torture, right? And then when they did the mediation, they tried getting them to throw your daughter out of your house at a time when you were at your most vulnerable state.
That what I'm saying is that the members with my wife and the members I hold to a higher degree of accountability, because my wife has hostility towards me and towards my daughter. I'm not going to sit down and lie and act like I was a saint. I've done enough things to piss my wife off.
Sure.
Every human being is like that.
Yeah.
So my wife had reason to be pissed off at me, and her her hostility and resentment towards my eldest daughter, her stepdaughter, is also, I can sit down and understand that she doesn't want her around. But those people that were there that were supposed to be impartial, what reason or motivation did they have?
Okay, well, that's something that I'll have to get a statement from and investigate,
you
right?
see, and the problem is with this is that Mr. Kwan, when multiple times when I've tried to deal with him and talk to him about it, he has sidestepped and he's lied completely about it, and he's lied many times. And it is shown that Mr. Kwan is a liar. And he's been...
So Dale, just to clarify,
Yes.
has any of these members that you've mentioned earlier, have any of them provided a statement about what had happened that
No.
time?
You see,
Okay.
I tried to talk to them. I sent him an email. I asked to have a meeting by Zoom to talk and discuss, because I said at the time, I was unable to mount any sort of reasonable defense in this situation based on the point of duress that I was at.
Okay.
Like I talked about after that, they said it doesn't, they're saying, oh, well, we love you. It doesn't matter what happens before, but it's what happens next. They left me alone and cut me off from anyone. The only person that was any support to me was my daughter. Okay. And she was barely dealing with things. I was lying on the floor for 2 weeks, struggling to stay alive.
Okay, what was going on?
I was dealing with deep depression and anxiety.
Okay, that makes
Right?
sense. Yep.
But I got through it. But where were any of them? Not one of them sent me a text message. One of Maisel actually said in the Sabbath school meeting, oh, it's nice to have people that come in and check on you when you're having problems. And I said in a prayer group after that, I said, what about the people that are sitting here struggling during the COVID with the isolation? I said, if it wasn't for Jesus, I'd be dead. But these people, a lot of people are having crazy anxiety and they have no coping skills. I said, how are we going to try and help these people as a church?
Yeah, that makes perfect sense.
Yes.
Because if people are stuck inside, it does cause a lot of anxiety,
yes,
right?
And some of the people that were there, they ran and complained to the pastor because they said I hurt their feelings.
Okay.
One woman came, Dawn, talked about women's rights. And after the prayer group, I didn't say anything to her. But I said, how does she have the nerve to talk about women's rights? What women's rights did she afford my daughter who is black and Métis? She didn't. When she was telling me to throw her out on the street to satisfy my wife's anger, they knew that she was not seeing properly. As an addict, as somebody who has struggled with addiction for most of my life, and I've been clean for a couple years, I know that resentment makes you blind. That's the reason why I was a slave to drugs and alcohol.
Okay.
It disgusts me because it's weakness. Because this is why crackheads go and try to stab you in the back for $20.
So I understand what you mean by the torture through the mediation there now, right?
Yes.
So that's that first complaint that you wanted to make?
Yes.
And what was the second part? You said, and the domestic violence, was that stemming from the...
Yes,
before
but
the
I'm gonna have to
mediation?
bring the information for that, because I wasn't able to bring all the information, because as you see, I've got lots, and this isn't even all of it. I have a couple hundred pages, and I have probably 2,000 or 3,000 more.
Just so you know,
Yes.
if you and I go and sit down in there, in an interview room, just hear me out, okay? I'll listen to you. I just want you to hear me out. I can make you a copy of the disc because it's your statement that you're providing to me. I have no problem giving you a copy of that disc. The whole thing is that it's a private spot where we could have spread this out and gone through this, right?
This is fine. This is fine, because if it has to go
What I'm saying, in the future, if you want, I'll give you my card. You can ask for me. We can go and sit down in there, and then you can actually lay this out so that I can. Because I know you've been in here, and I know there's been a lot of stuff being said, and I'd like to get to the bottom of it and find out what is actually going on.
Because after this, it didn't stop there. When I tried to talk to them, they all didn't want to talk to me.
Right.
And I don't know if I have the emails here, but no, I'll have to provide them to you later.
Okay.
But of the communications that I've had with them when trying to address this issue, and I talked very kindly to them, even though I was completely violent, because I believe as a Christian, it isn't my right to treat somebody with disrespect, even though they've done me something wrong.
Sure.
And this is why when a lot of the horrendous things that they've done, I've said kind words to them after. Because even though they've done things that would make people angry, if I allow them to have that power by allowing me to react to them, that's weakness.
Yeah, I get what you're saying.
So now going forward after that, they asked me to they pressured to step down from my position.
Because you said you were
an officer.
An officer there? Okay.
At the time, while I was under duress,
So were you an officer at the time when this?
Yes, I was an elder. I had two
Elder.
officer positions, an elder and personal ministries director.
Okay.
Me and my wife were the ones who we did organize the golf tournament to send some kids from the Boys and Girls Clubs to summer camp last year.
Awesome.
Yes.
So what was your role then in the day-to-day of the church, being an elder? And
an elder is like you're kind of, you support the pastor and what he does. You go into some people, you help the spiritual needs of people, you help deal with problems inside of the church.
Okay.
And
how?
so forth.
Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. How long were you a member of the church in Battleford here?
Probably go 3 or 4 years.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you know everybody in there quite well.
Yes.
And I mean,
Yes.
I take it if you're Christian and you're in the community, you guys are fairly close, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. I'm sorry. Carry on.
So basically, they're also governed by the Not-for-Profit Act, and they made a violation of the Not-for-Profit Act by asking me to step down based on the condition which I was in, because under civil law, I did not have the capacity to make a decision like that, but yet they accepted that, and people that were in that mediation were also party to that, which is also a conflict of interest.
And have you spoken to a lawyer about that civil? Anything civil on that side?
I've talked to about that, because there's a lot of things that have gone on, but you're watching a train of events happening here.
Yep. I'm getting that feeling.
Yes. And then from there, what happens next is that I keep trying to address it, and they don't do nothing. And I keep sending emails, and they do nothing. And then I go to the conference president of the Manitoba Saskatchewan Conference. He says, go to the church and try to deal with it, because I asked the board and they said no. So I called a special meeting, which is under the legal rights to do, and it's also in accordance with what the Bible says on how to deal with it. So I was following both sides of the law. I asked for a special meeting. The board said to me that they will give me 20 minutes to speak. I cannot mention anybody's names or attack anybody. Well, I might as well sit there with my mouth tied. And the board consists of mostly those people that were involved in the mediation. So if those are the people that are going to be judging the situation, and they are the most influential people in the church, how can I expect to have any fairness? I can't, because there's a conflict of interest there. And based on the Not-for-Profit Act, they're not acting in the best interests of the not-for-profit. So they've violated that because they didn't want to deal with it. And I said that's unacceptable. So I went to the conference president. He met me with silence. He would not respond to my phone calls, my text messages, nor my emails, which it was his obligation to do so, but he refused to. But even before that, the corporation that I work for, because of the issues with the COVID-19, sent them a direct request letter and saying that I can assist you at cost to help with the COVID-19, any COVID-19 measures that you need to help that you would open your doors, and the Legionosis startup to make sure that it's done properly so nobody gets sick if they go to the drinking water.
That was your company talking to the church
Yes.
now? Okay.
Yes. And I said that they do it at cost to help it, and I said I would do it for any of the houses of worship, because the churches are an important part of the community and they help a lot of the things in the community, right? And they didn't. They said, we don't know enough about it, so we're not going to do it, which, again, for the Not-for-Profit Act, they can't do that, because they're supposed to listen to someone who has professional advice. They can't sit down and say that. They've just violated the law again, civilly. So, again, they have to be now looked at because of that. Now, on top of that, we're here in these conversations here, these text messages here. I told James Kwan repeatedly not to remove me from any position. I identified that I had ADHD, talked about the impulsivity. I said, listen, if I'm going to resign, I'm going to do it myself. I'm not going to have anybody take a letter from me. And he continually told me that he was going to do it. He's going to accept my resignation. I said no. I said it 3 times in stronger language. And my final communication to him, I will read what he said.
So you never submitted a resignation letter from there?
No, I did not.
Okay.
I never did that. And even still, it would have been illegal for him to do so based on the duress I was under. And I said, I am asking you to wait until I'm ready to do so. When I vocalize that, it will place me under undue pressure to do it before I'm ready. Is it wise to do that? I would have to say no. I have other things on my plate right now that I haven't told you or anyone. Again, I will reiterate that I do not want any portion of this mentioned to anyone until I'm ready. If in doing so, you will be going against my wishes and my pleas based on my personal situation. That is all I have to say regarding the matter. Then he went ahead and took it to the board, and they removed me from the position immediately.
Okay, so with that being said, then, have you spoken to a lawyer about that? Because that's civil court, right?
Yes,
So you'd have
yes.
to sue them in order to make that.
But
any
these
move.
actions are demonstrating that they're protecting themselves or trying to hide their guilt.
I see what you're.
This is very clear.
Okay?
This is very, very clear. And as he went through each and every level, they continued not to listen. All right? And then it got to the point that the president of the Manitoba Saskatchewan Conference of Seventh-day Adventists, who did not listen to any of my pleas or try to resolve this in any way, shape, or form, sends me a no trespass order that says that I will, this was dated on the 5th of June of 2020, that I'm barred from all properties from the Manitoba Saskatchewan Conference of the Seventh-day Adventist Church.
Okay.
The problem is I'm still a member, so they're not legally allowed to do so. They would have to disfellowship me, but according to disfellowshipping, which governs the church manual, I'm allowed to make a defense and to speak in front of the entire church. But they didn't want to offer me that. This is the whole point, is they didn't want me to speak.
I see what you're saying, and there's a lot of things that I can't do about any of that. Right?
No,
like, you understand that?
I understand that, but
Okay.
it is demonstrating a pattern of behavior.
Okay.
Right?
So now,
But before that, they come and they had Officer Sakella and another officer, which I don't know his name, come to my home.
I know them both.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm familiar with the file. I'm actually their supervisor.
Okay.
So
They talked to my daughter. I was at a Bible study with a man who just got out of prison, who the pastor won't even go to visit. You know why I go to have a Bible study with him? Because if I don't, nobody's going to help him.
Okay.
And what is he going to do if nobody helps him? He's going to go back and do the very same thing that put him in jail. So it's in everybody's best interest to do so.
Sure.
Because after dealing with addiction, I don't even care, because I don't think I'm good, because I had to sit beside horrible people. And I myself was no prize either.
How long ago did you kick your addiction?
About 7 years ago. There was a couple of relapses until I realized that I had ADHD, and once I figured that out, it's been a few years.
Congratulations.
Yes. And under this situation that I've been dealing with, if I was going to relapse, it would have been now, but I didn't. So so all of these situations that are going on. Where was I? What was I talking about?
Just before, you said that they had kicked you out without your knowledge,
yes,
or without your permission.
Yes.
And then we went to civil court. You said that it's like a train of. There's a lot of history, there's a pattern of history here, and you were trying to. Going further back.
On the 30th, about the complaint with
Sakella. Yeah.
So they called me in, and so I was like, okay, came after the Bible study. What's this about? Well, they came with another threats complaint. They had no basis for it. They came with it based on an assumption, and doing that without any valid evidence, that is also a crime.
Okay, and that's what Sakella investigated and found. You didn't face any charges from that at all.
But then
right?
I also brought 91 pages of information after that to support them. I also gave her a book that was evidence that they tried to return to me, which I was like...
And I can explain that to you maybe a little bit better, because I know that upset you. But usually when a file is closed out and it was your personal property, right? You wanted her to read it?
Yes, because
she asked my permission in order to return it. So I put a note on our hard file that you had provided a book, but you were going to get it back.
I said that it didn't matter, didn't need it back.
Okay, so it's back on the hard copy file, just so you know.
But what I'm saying is that I brought that information in for them to go back and now look at everything that they failed to provide them when they came to make this complaint, which would have gave light to what they were doing, and it would have shown that they were having this whole train of events doing this, where they culminated in that event. It is very clear when you watch the way that they've been avoiding things and avoiding dealing with me, and now they come to make this complaint that was baseless, and they had no reason to do so. And then after that, then the president of the conference comes with this with this no trespass order that I
That was
received.
after you'd spoken with Constable Sakala?
Yeah. Yes.
Okay, so what you're saying is they set you up on a pedestal just to knock
Well,
you down, right?
I'm looking at the events that are happening, and I'm just trying to talk to them, and people don't want to talk to me. This is the whole issue. I don't understand. Do I look like a savage that I'm going to go and kill people? Like, no.
Have you had any arguments with them in the past where it would make them not want to talk to you?
You know, no. Actually, this is actually the funny thing, is that my wife, when our daughter was just shortly after she was born, she was here, and I was still going to school, driving to and from Saskatoon,
Right.
to finish my degree in mechanical engineering technology. We were doing the golf tournament. One of the ladies there quit because she had a disagreement with my wife, didn't like something, and she said, well, I don't have enough time, but she was retired. And I was pissed off because I have to go to school because I have a job to go to after to help feed my wife and my child. I'm not going to make my wife go back to work after having a baby premature if I can do something about it, so I'm going to make sure that gets done. She has to pack up our weeks-old baby to go and get sponsors for this golf tournament. I was livid. I wrote the response. I think it's here, actually. And yes, it's right here. This is what I said. On Monday, May 13th, Kim and I had a phone conversation with Alan Lung, health inspector. He had a conversation with Ken Starter, whom he works under. He said that there was some confusion with the information. He assured me that in getting the permit for the event, it will no way impact any of the events at the church. Family Fun Day and Walk Through Bethlehem are exempt because we are serving at the church. It also states that the church is exempt from having the permit for food served there. Regardless of what we serve at the golf event, we have to follow proper sanitation and the health guidelines to serve people food. There is zero risk to us as a church in getting this permit, and this was confirmed verbally both to myself and Kim, and any questions can be directed to the health inspector's office if needed. After Cheryl's resignation, she was not privy to any of the progress that the committee had made in this area, or in any areas for that matter. She did not contact the committee to ascertain what was going on with respect to the matter in question. I would think that she was cognizant of who is responsible for the food arrangements, given that she was present for the meeting in which the task was delegated. Taking that into consideration, I don't understand why there were not any questions directed toward the committee before or during her investigation into the food. In my opinion, the logical course of action would be to question the committee directly to see where they were at and then respond with your concerns or investigate after the conversation. I think that it would be reasonable, respectful, and in harmony with the principles of Christianity to work with the persons who were assigned to the task in question. I would like to state, as much as I did not agree with Cheryl's actions, and I was not pleased to see my wife hurt by them as well, I have forgiven her. I cannot speak to her intent because I don't know, nor it is my place to assign motive to someone else. What I can speak to is the effect of the actions that the actions have had. That effect was not a harmonious one. Kim is exasperated to the point that she does not feel like she wants to handle the food. Quite often we don't understand the impact of our actions on someone else until it is brought to our attention. I understand that we all make errors in judgment because we are human. When we were leaving the hospital after Carol was born, we were told that Cheryl, had to resign because of the time commitment. To be honest, I had a hard time understanding that because Kim and I made the time for it under the most difficult of circumstances. Regarding the sponsors, Kim was packing up a 3-week-old baby who was still 5 weeks premature. She was getting 3 hours of sleep a day to pound the pavement to get sponsors. She has found the time to do a lot of work under extremely difficult circumstances, and Kim has poured her heart and soul into this. After the sacrifices were made by the committee, and especially to Kim, it is being viewed as an egregious lack of respect towards her and the rest of the committee. And on top of this, the information that was brought forth to the board regarding the temporary permit was incorrect as well. In closing, I will reaffirm my commitment to continue with the responsibilities that I have accepted in working towards the completion of this golf fundraiser. I will reiterate that I have no issue with the board making the decision based on the information that they have. I also have no issue with Cheryl either. What I see here is a seed of discord sown that should not be allowed to grow. It is my desire that it does not go further, because when discord arises, the enemy... it's probably on another one of these last pages, I'm not sure, but that's almost the end of the
Okay,
list.
so this went to who?
This went to anybody, the church board, the church board, the same board, and this was last year. Even after the mediation, and I will actually supply those emails, copies of those emails. I snapped and said something in a tone that I didn't like in the Sabbath school to Gary and about Cliff, and he wasn't even there. After this whole mediation thing, and Cliff and Gary did say that when I wanted to go to Calgary, they called me and told me that I was making a mistake, and they were very forceful in their tone. And I tried to explain to them, and they're like, "Yo, you're making a mistake," and I didn't appreciate that, and so forth. But even still, with all of that stuff, I said something that I didn't like, and I apologized to them. And I have it in text message that Cliff said, "I've never heard somebody denounce themselves this strongly before." When I apologize, when I do something wrong, I will admit it, because if I don't, it's how can I do anything and move forward?
You need to accept it. And,
Yes,
yeah.
and I even put down the 12 steps of Alcoholics Anonymous. If I don't take that moral inventory and continually do that, I will go out and use.
Yeah.
And I would rather die than do that.
Okay.
Especially that I have a young daughter that needs a father.
Absolutely. How
Yes.
old is your youngest daughter?
She's 18 months.
Okay.
Yes.
So then this was sent to the board in response to
This was an issue, what I was telling you about from last year.
for the golf. Yeah. Okay.
Yes, but then after this mediation, I'll supply those text, the conversations from email that show you how I treated them after this thing had happened, when I had done something wrong to them.
Okay.
Even though they have done this evil to me, I still knew that if I did something wrong, I had to apologize, because that's what I believe.
Okay.
And so for their actions to not want to discuss this is a problem. And this is why they're going through these steps to continue to avoid responsibility.
Okay. And I can't make the church respond to you, and I can't make any of
No,
those
you
people
can't.
respond
I'm
to
not
you.
sitting down and telling you that you can't.
I know.
I'm just,
what I'm also telling you is that
What
the
they-
investigations that I can do,
Yes.
right, is going to be you brought up the torture, so I'm definitely going to deep dive into that and see
yes,
if it fits.
and you
your
can
case.
see from the way that they've dealt with this, their credibility is not there.
Right, but that's not up to me. That's up to the courts, right?
Yes, but it's
So
still
then
the charges need to come.
you'd mentioned domestic violence,
Yes.
right? When you would first come in and talk
Yes,
to the lady.
but I'm going to have to bring the supporting evidence, because I don't have that documentation with me right now.
Okay.
Like I said, I have ADHD, and sometimes I overlook things.
Yep.
And there was a time constraint here.
Okay.
So this is the one that needs to be dealt with, because this is what I have here.
Okay. And I have
And-
copies of all of this inside.
And this needs to be done, because there's no ifs, ands, or buts about this. There is a lot of information that they're trying, like, to sit down and say that I'm mentally unstable.
Okay, and I don't know anything
But
about-
I'm saying that even with the lawyer, actually, that we need to talk about, because they have signed affidavits on things that they put them down to, because saying that I threatened the member. How do they say that? There were no charges laid from that. So how could they sit down and say that they threatened? That's perjury.
Well, and I don't know if did they call the police at that time?
But there's also this issue here where they have some other things that we need to actually look at, because right here, this is also another affidavit that they signed that says that in my possession is where is it here? Where is it? It said that I have that I have a 2016 Toyota Corolla in my possession. It says it's in the possession of Dale Richardson. This was dated the 28th day of June, 2020.
Okay, and what's this regarding?
This is regarding some divorce proceedings.
Okay, so this is
Yes.
a property statement
Yes.
from your wife.
Yes, but it was also signed up by the lawyer from.
Okay, and what does this have to do with me, though?
I'm telling you right now, because this is a lie. This
Okay.
is a lie. I have.
You have a lawyer representing you as well.
Whoa. Hold
Well, the
on.
reason why I'm
Yes.
asking is because
Yes, but I'm
that's-
telling you that if you look at the statute of perjury, it does not have to be made in front of a court. This is perjury and it's a criminal charge.
Okay,
What I'm saying is that this Toyota Corolla is on video when my wife has said is in my possession and they declared it. She said that these are declared and been stamped off by the courts. And I have it on video where they came and they took it away and they were driving away with it, and I no longer have it in my
So
possession.
who was driving it? Your wife was?
Oh no, her father.
Okay.
Okay.
So that'll be something that would
I
come
called
up
the
in-
RCMP that day and talked to them about extortion because they came and forcefully took the car away from me. The forcefully, my wife has stated on numerous occasions that was to be mine because I had an SUV that she pressured me to sell, and said that I would take the car. And then instead of switching over, she came and took it, and she declared it many times that it was my car, and even puts it down as in my possession, and that's a lie. And also my laptop that I asked her for did not return, and I have no idea where it is. It doesn't show up on my iPhone.
And how long ago did the car go missing? And
The car they came and they took it forcefully.
When did that happen?
That was the 27th of May. It's a month after.
Okay.
Okay, so that is definitely perjury. That's lying. Also, that needs to be discussed because she also talked to Cliff Holmes in the text before this mediation.
Sure.
She said that, and that's her testimony. But he didn't show up, so he had knowledge of what's going on. That means he's also in collusion with that.
Okay. So
It's
I'm
on
just
the
gonna,
text messages.
Sure. I'm just going to ask you, the documents that you showed me here, the ones that it shows your car, those are court sealed documents. Is that what you're saying?
No, these were served to me.
Okay.
They were served to me
From her lawyer, or from a process server?
from a process server.
Okay.
And actually, when I looked at it, and I'm not a lawyer, it's absolutely horrendous.
Okay. Did you? And you said you would talk to. I'm just curious.
Yes,
This is out of
I
curiosity. And you
talked to a
spoke
lawyer.
And what did he say about that?
Well, I'm waiting for them to get back to me because these things are so intertwined. Because some of the events that are tied to these proceedings between my wife and I are also tied to these other proceedings. It's actually quite disgusting.
It seems pretty intertwined.
It's
and convoluted.
absolutely disgusting. And the fact that they came after this whole train of events to come to bring the RCP with false allegations against myself, this is where the problem comes. Because they should have never come to you.
Okay, but we can't stop, Dale. It's much like you. We can't stop them from coming to the
Yes,
front door.
but then
right?
they've also said to me that the RCMP, and this is based on when I went to the Bank of Montreal. I went to saw Linda Heber, which is Kim's mother.
Okay.
All right, and I asked where my daughter was because she said her lawyer advised her. They came and took the car on the 27th. On the 30th, I came here about the allegations. I sent last text message I sent my wife and said I wanted to talk to her. And then on the Monday, I got a text message that said her lawyer advised her that I shouldn't be able to see Karis. Didn't say anything other than that. And that if I come to her house or her parents' place, that the RCMP would be called. And for what reason? I have no idea, because I didn't commit any crimes. I didn't do anything. I haven't seen her. They have my property that's there. I have 2 toolboxes that are there that I cannot get because the threat of the RCMP is keeping me off of there. Because I look at the way that the church members in that mediation gave partiality to my wife because she's white. Her mother and her came to my mother's house over the Christmas break, and they attacked me in my mother's house verbally, while my mother and even my daughter, who my wife called toxic, in that mediation.
What were they saying to you at your house?
I asked my wife, I said, let my youngest daughter stay here because she doesn't get to see her grandmother here, and she's looking at them like strangers, and it broke my heart. She came to the bathroom and said, Dale's trying to force me from taking Karis, which is not what I said. And she straight out lied, and their mother came and flew at me. When I said that I was going to Lacombe to pick up my daughter after this, Raymond and Linda, they both tried to talk me out of it and tell me that I shouldn't do it. I'm like, what the hell is that? What father is not going to go to his daughter's aid in that situation?
Okay, so what part of that conversation was an attack on you? I'm trying to find out what is the attack?
Why would someone tell a father not to go help your daughter who was assaulted and sexually assaulted repeatedly?
Okay, so that's terrible advice. right?
But
Is that an
this shows
attack on
this shows the
somebody?
level of bias that they have.
You think it's bias, or you think it's just bad judgment?
Linda, her parents are racist, and I've listened to them make racist remarks about Indigenous people
Okay.
in front of me. They made a remark about a person of South Asian descent in front of me, and Raymond turned to me, looked at me. After I'd already called his wife out for being racist, he looked at me straight in the face and then said it, and they all laughed. What do you think I'm going to think? You're going to raise a biracial child in that environment?
How long ago before this incident did that
This
happen?
was in December of 2019.
December 2019, he
Yes.
said that, and then we
Yes.
move ahead to when they verbally attacked you in the house. When was that, roughly?
When they came to take the vehicle?
When they came to the house and verbally attacked
When
you.
they came to the house,
They had to get the vehicle.
yes.
Yes.
When they extorted the vehicle, it was on May 27th. I made a call to the RCMP, and they said there's nothing they can do.
Okay, so the racial comments and stuff like that was almost 1 year prior to.
But it's the way that I watch them deal with things as well. It's not the first time. I've heard them say it many times. And it's the point that you hear it so much that it has to pass a certain threshold before you actually do something. Because I experience discrimination all the time when I go out in public. All the time. It's just a normal thing that I'm used to. It has to pass a certain threshold before I say something. And it's actually terrible that it has to be that way. But I watch the way that they do things, and the way that when it comes down to the black side of the family, there's always a problem when it comes to seeing Carol. Every single time that white people have come and asked if they were racist because of it. So when I sit down and hear people saying these things, and I see the clear bias that's being demonstrated to me, I can understand what's motivating them. Because I see a pattern of behavior. It's not like I'm assuming what the intent's, I'm just watching a pattern of behavior that matches up. And this is what people do. This is how you judge situations. But a lot of times people put their intents in there. And people always tell me, oh, well, I'm afraid of you. Why? Why are you afraid of me? Because of my size? Because being big does not mean that I'm going to do something wrong to someone. And the way I look is being made people, I've been hearing people being afraid of me by the way I look all of my life. You know how disgusting that is? Because I'm sitting out and do nothing, and I make somebody afraid. Oh, I didn't ask to be born this way. But this is what I have to deal with on a daily basis. But you know what the thing is? I understand that if I hate racism, I have to do everything in me not to become the thing that I hate. Because and the reason why I dealt with the people anyway is because I tried to see that if I can show them love, then maybe they would see something different and change their point of view. Because if I fought with them, it's not going to work. How many times has somebody walked up and saw somebody punch them in the face and they said, thanks for that, it really changed my mind? It doesn't work that way.
Yep.
So this is the main issue that needs to start being looked at, because that is absolutely the heart of it. And everything else is going to go along with it. There's more information that's going to be brought to it.
So, Dale, I'm going to ask you, because there's a lot of stuff here, right?
Yes.
You have a lot of documents here, and you said you have more emails at home.
Yes.
Okay, and you don't want to sit down with me and go through them. So what and I'm asking you to do this, you don't have to. I would sooner sit down and us go through them piece by piece. But I'm going to give you a pad of paper, one of our notepads, and I'll get you to write down what part of the story that each note comes from. That way I can kind of keep track, because you understand me not being involved in the situation and having multiple emails and multiple different things all over the place, right?
For right now,
I see your the red boxes and stuff you have.
yes.
Okay.
For right now, I can put them, staple them together.
Well, I have copies of all
Okay.
these in the order you gave them.
Okay, what I'm saying is also there's all of these issues going on, because there is a long line of things that go there, because it is problem after problem after problem in the last 30 days, because this is the issue that stemmed from, which went even further, that went to the United Nations, because some of the people that were on the board that continue to do these things, and that were part of the issues of the people that were involved in the torture and the removal, because when they had legally removed me from there, that made them party to it from what the people that were at the mediation did.
Okay.
So now they've involved people. When I talk to people about the behavior, like the SHA, about the involvement of the people that were there, and they did nothing. Why? When people are having some serious allegations like this, they didn't even respond.
Right. And another thing, just,
that's an issue.
you know, like, I mean, you're a very intelligent man. You obviously understand how laws are interpreted, right?
Yes.
And that's why when I talk to you about the civil law and stuff like that, I say to talk to a lawyer, because I don't know how the courts are interpreting those laws at every time. So what I'm going to have to do is I'm going to have to talk to Crown about the torture section.
The torture section, you can go talk to those people right now.
No,
I
need to talk to, like, I'm going to talk to Crown and find out what the threshold is and what they want, what they need in order to lay that charge.
Because
okay?
when you look at the issues that I sent to the United Nations, I think that the Crown would want to also look at those as well.
Okay.
Because
and they're in this package.
Yes.
See, and that goes back to the fact that I would
you know,
if you could make a note so I know where to look at each individual juncture of the story, right? Because there's a lot of stuff, like even in here, you've got multiple conversations, right?
Yes.
And I don't necessarily, like, I don't know which conversation. Well, I guess they have the name. Well, this one doesn't have a name bubble on it, right?
Right there.
Oh, gotcha.
Yeah. And they're timed and dates.
Yeah, for sure. They're just screenshots of it.
Yes. And then where is it? There it is. So these are the ones with Mr. Kwan that need to be looked at, because this speaks to his and their credibility on doing things. So that's absolutely relevant. This is also relevant. This is also relevant here, because there's
This right here, what is this?
this is the list of all the people that this has gone to.
Okay, and did you send it to those people, or was that sent to you?
I
like that?
sent them to these people, and I forwarded to another email. This is a forward. I forwarded. There's the last person that was forwarded to, because that's the Human Rights Council in Geneva.
Okay.
Right? And so this is actually, and this is a report that was done by a third party that's being attached to there,
Okay.
which also talks about the issues that I had with the counselor from the SHA who was dissuading me from getting my file that I asked for repeatedly.
When you Sask Health, SHA.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. And this was also something that was attached to the information. This was from an archbishop in the Vatican. Yes, and he was speaking to Donald Trump in respect to some of the issues with COVID-19, which is something that I was also dealing with the SHA, which I pointed out a glaring error that they made in one of their documents that they provided to the College of Dentistry, which I pointed out would actually cause problems to people's health if not properly remedied. See, there's a table, let me see if it's actually, which is also a cause for concern because it's not good engineering practice in order to do so. Yes, there we go. This is their table right here. This also needs to be investigated because this can cause problems, because it talks about the air exchanges per hour. It doesn't talk about anything with the mixing factor, right? And so we went and looked at the CDC report because I'm a mechanical engineering technologist, but it didn't have it in the appendix. But I found the actual table S31, which came from a table in 1994.
Okay.
Whoa.
Just one second.
Yes.
Just one second. So now we're talking about Sask Health.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
They have nothing to do with the church and the torture.
Actually, some of their members, their agents were there, party to it. Yes.
Okay, so we're talking about two different organizations. So which parts of their agents were dealing with the church? I'm trying to keep them straight.
Part of the one of the members that was sitting on the board, Judy Hajdukovic. Okay, that removed me illegally, which also is now party to the continued harassment and torture of myself. And there is also, Gary Lund has 3 of his children and in-laws, children-in-law that work as doctors for the SHA. Marina Shrap, I can't think of the, it's in here, I can't think of how to pronounce her last name. She also works at the SHA.
So you want another complaint starter to get about the SHA then for something? Because I don't understand. Either they'd be part of the one.
Okay, you see the progression of events of harassment and torture was removing me from that position illegally was only to continue to discriminate, which constitutes the torture under 269.1.
Right, and that was the church, right?
No, but the agents of the SHA were also involved.
Okay, well,
because
their agents
listen,
are their people
they're
inside
representatives.
The church?
Yes, they're in the church, but they're representatives. They work for SHA. I alerted the SHA to their involvement in these things, and they did nothing.
Okay, Dale, can I ask you a question?
Yes.
In their capacity at the church, were they members of the church, or were they working for Sask Health in the church? No, I need to draw a very straight line.
What I'm going to do is I'm going to tell you how the line is drawn with professional conduct. I know as a mechanical engineering technologist, my good conduct does not just stop when I get off of work. Everything I do must follow along that good conduct. Even the people here at the city that work for the city, things that they do outside of work will affect what they do at the city. You can be fired for things at Facebook, for Facebook posts.
Sure. Yeah.
And that affects poorly on them. Just like the people that work at the SHA are professionals and their conduct does do that.
Right, but that doesn't call in the whole Sask Health.
No,
right?
but when I reported it to them, they did nothing. And in doing so, when you read the way that the act is worked, if they do nothing, it actually makes them complicit to it, and it makes it party to them.
Well, you're going to another. There's a whole other realm that you're missing here, and it would be their disciplinary act, and would they act under
I need to
their
hold this for
disciplinary,
a second, please.
right?
I need to get some water.
It's a completely different.
Actually, no, it isn't. That's not the way the law works. It's like, if I want somebody, I have knowledge of somebody committing a crime,
Yeah.
and I did nothing about it, that makes me party
Okay,
to that crime.
but the thing is that you have to be able to. So for them, right? You made the accusation that it's torture, and for them it has to be made out, right?
Okay, if somebody gets charged with something, somebody makes a complaint about something.
Mm-hmm.
It's like if you make a complaint about something and they say that as a professional, with Alex, for example, I'll quote what Cyprian told me. As a teacher, if he made an allegation about something, it didn't matter whether it was true or not, just the allegation of any type of sexual misconduct, he has to report it. And they have strict rules on the way they do things. This is the Saskatchewan Health Authority. The problem with what the Saskatchewan Health Authority has done is also they've done things that are going to endanger people's lives potentially. And this is a problem because that's constituting criminal negligence, because this does not follow standard engineering practice when this table clearly defines.
And I don't know anything about engineering.
Okay,
so
but I'm gonna explain it.
So you're gonna tell me, but I'm a layman. So if
Yes.
you can tell me that it's pink and
But
purple,
I'm
and
going
I
to
won't
tell,
know any
but I'm going to
different,
tell
right?
you this. But you can look at this, and you can see that there's lots missing on this. There's no mention of mixing factor. This is an incomplete table. You can see that they're not even the same. There's not any mention of this mixing factor, and it tells you that the mixing factor could also change these times by up to 10 times. So let me put this in layman's terms, because I was looking at a dental office. Okay? I was looking at a dental office here in town. They asked me to look at their system, and they told me what was going on. I came and looked at this. I saw that it was incomplete. I was talking to a professional engineer who has over 25 years of experience and another technologist who has over that kind of experience. So in that room between professional and technical experience, you're looking at probably close to 100 years of experience. Okay? So all of us came to the conclusion that we need to find out what that was before we could competently tell somebody to do this, okay? To advise somebody on this. Okay? So, when I did this, I came over here and I started to talk to them and I sent them a message about this. I got no response. This is not good engineering practice. When you look at the bylaws of APEX, which is the Engineers and Geoscience Act, this does not constitute this. Somebody doing this, if I ever turned and worked like this, I would lose my ability to
So
practice.
again, I'm just going to ask you, where did you find this document?
This was from the original document from the CDC in 1994.
Okay, so that was in '94, and you
It's
found
the-
that
it's
you
the
found
same
that on
doc-
the you found that on the website though, right?
Yes, yes.
Okay, so because you're not preview to what they have in their office or in our office, you'd have to have somebody
Listen,
subpoena
I
that.
asked,
I'm just
whoa. It is because okay, I'm gonna have to now talk to you about this on an official capacity as a representative of DSR Cares
yeah.
Consultant.
I'm not.
I
I'm
have
not
to do
talking.
this-
I'm not.
I just-
I don't want.
listen,
No,
listen,
you
I
hear
just
me
have
out.
to-
I'm
I
here
have
to talk to you
I have
about
to
your torture. No, I don't need to
I
talk
have-
about your company. We're
this
people.
is-
We'll
this
talk
is-
like people. I don't need you to talk
this
to me
is-
in a professional capacity.
I'm
It's-
telling you this in order to
Dale,
give the information
no, no,
that's
no.
pertinent to this.
Stop for a second, okay?
So you're trying to impede me
No,
to
no,
tell you
no. Just
relevant
give me
facts.
give me 1 second here, okay? You're talking about Sask Health, right?
Yes.
And you so you now you want to make a secondary complaint about
No,
Sask Health?
no.
Okay, so then why are we talking about Sask Health?
Listen, I'm making this is tied to this complaint.
No, the people that
Listen,
work at
I'm
let me finish. The people that work at Sask Health that go to the church are tied to this complaint, right? Everything else that you're telling me about the engineering and stuff, Dale, I
Okay,
don't know
then I'll
anything
make a
about
second
it.
complaint about SAS Health then.
Sure, absolutely.
Okay.
If that's what
Then
you'd like
that-
to do,
then-
then
then
we'll do
that's-
that.
we'll do that.
So I want to stay on topic as to what was going on with the torture and the domestic violence, because we haven't touched domestic
The
violence
domestic
yet, but you're
violence,
going to
I told you that
emails
we'll
that
do
you're
that
going to bring me.
now. So we can sit down and start a file right now because this is actually very important because potentially with what happens here, with what's going on with the SHA,
Yeah.
is that people can get killed. That will be criminal negligence because what it's supposed to do is that mixing factor is based, that table is based on a perfect mixing factor, which does not exist.
And we're talking about mixing oxygen through
This is like
air
you go to
purifiers.
you go to a
or-
dentist's office
Yeah.
and they clean your teeth and they spray, you get mist in the air. This is an aerosol generating procedure.
Like
So-
the medical gas procedure.
No, like say they're cleaning your teeth and there's water spraying, you know where they're flushing and you're drilling and they have water in there as well?
Yeah.
That's an aerosol generating procedure. It's gonna make tiny droplets that are going to the air, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so they get these guidelines to say so that we don't have we need to slow the transmission of the COVID-19 because the aerosolization is how it transmits, right? In droplets. Coughing is also one of the means in which it transmits.
I understand what you're saying.
So they say that you need to have your HVAC system set up so that it will have so many air exchanges per hour. So it's safe to bring another person in. Okay?
Yeah, I know.
Okay.
I understand what you're saying.
So this mixing factor of 1 is a perfect system, which is it doesn't exist. It's hypothetical in most cases. You might get close to it, but your ventilation factors can go. The mixing factor can go between 1 to 10. That number multiplies the times on that table.
Okay.
So if I have a mixing factor of 5, and I look on my chart here, but I don't know this because it's not stated anywhere. I look on that chart, and it says 10 minutes, but it's actually 50 because I have to multiply it by 5.
Right. So that takes 50 minutes to
But
transfer the
but
air
I
out
think
once,
it's
right?
10, and I put another person in there. Well, guess what? I've just infected that person.
Okay.
Okay, and then say that person has another disease.
Okay.
But-
so how do
but-
you know for sure that they don't have that kind
I've requested this for over a month.
Okay. And
I've
let me
been-
ask you another question. Just out of
Okay.
out of curiosity, why do they have to provide you that?
because because it's what I need to do my job. It is what a federal corporation needs to conduct its business.
Right.
And withholding that information is actually interfering with the lawful operation of a federal corporation.
But you're not in business with them. Am I correct?
That's
No, it's an honest
I
question.
don't have to be in business for them to share that information because they gave that as a guidance document for HVAC consultants
And
in
that
order
was
to use.
on the web, and that came
was
from
on
'94, right?
No. They didn't provide that. They provided something that was updated, but it was incomplete. The
Okay.
information was incomplete. SHA, they came and brought it. I talked to the College of Dentistry, okay?
Yeah.
And I asked them for this. They said that they had an engineering report coming and to call back in a couple of days. I did. They said call back in a week. I did. The registrar told me that he didn't know of any engineering report and he passed me off to the SHA. So I went to the SHA, they pushed me over to the business response team. So I sent emails to them about that. They didn't tell me. They have an obligation, and they said if an engineer had to put this together, based on the act that governs them, they are under obligation to do so. I even talked
Okay,
to...
I'm sorry. I need to understand the obligation. Can you explain what you mean by they are obligated to give it to you and why? Because I need to know why.
Because it based on the
Right.
Apex Act in it's the bylaws, which is the Engineering and Geosciences Act of Saskatchewan in Section 5. It talks about doing things. You're operating in a manner that is within the public interest,
Okay.
and you have to take into consideration ethics and how people are going to be affected by the work that we're doing.
Yeah.
And you have to provide the information. This is standard engineering practice.
Yeah, and I don't know. That's why I'm asking
But I'm
these
telling
questions,
you
right?
this because this is something that they taught us in school. They drilled this into our head about ethical behavior and good engineering practice. This is not good engineering practice. The engineer who has done this, and I made a complaint to Apex as well, because I said that Apex should be going after the person who put this out because it does not follow this good engineering practice.
Right.
And based on their own governing bylaws.
So what did they do?
Whoever the engineer that they got this from, whoever put this out, it's their responsibility. They govern the engineering practice from people who do the degrees
Right.
in Saskatchewan.
Okay.
Okay, so
Like, I don't know. That's why I'm asking the questions, right? Because I don't know.
the SHA is the government entity, and this is where we're going to have to actually come in and start this complaint about the SHA, because they have a responsibility as a government agency to look after the people. It's not in the best interests of the people of Saskatchewan to do these things.
Okay.
And this has to be investigated because it's criminal negligence, because people could die. People could lose their businesses, and that is unacceptable.
Sure. So Dale, because I don't know and I'm a layman when it comes to the engineering,
Yes.
would you, because I'm back at work tomorrow at 6 a.m., okay? Could you provide me with a copy of the emails from the first file that we talked about?
But I want that complaint started now.
Yeah, I'll start it. I'll put it in this report
Because
when I do it. But what I would like you to do, so that we can stay chronologically, so I understand. Because like I said, I'm a layman. So if you were to write down chronologically what you found, where you found it, how, because I don't know, maybe you can quote.
I can copy these for you.
I
here.
have all those.
I know, but I can take these so that you can have these pulled here together for the issue with the SHA, so that you know that this is the starting point. Okay?
Okay.
And tie this all together. And there will be 2 complaints going from for the SHA.
Okay.
One complaint is going to come from myself as an individual, and the next complaint will come from the corporation. So we're going to have two of these started, and we'll start with these. That's
Okay, I have copies of all those.
but
there.
I want to make sure that these get copied and put into that file right away, so that there is a file started on it for both the corporation and for myself as
Yeah.
an individual.
They're both going to be started here.
Well, I would like to get the numbers of them once you've got those files started, so that I have the reference numbers to keep for myself.
Sure.
Because I need them for all of them.
And finishing what I was saying there,
Yes.
because looking at this is, like I said, it's a bunch of information. And I'm going to give you this pad, okay? This notepad, but I need the clipboard. But you can take the pad home, and then if you can write me out a statement, okay? And I will take an audio statement from you if you'd like. We can stand out here again tomorrow, hopefully in the shade, so we're not both parched.
I can take an audio statement based on this information. Will give you enough to start investigating this.
Yes.
And I will supply more information, but this needs to be investigated immediately, because these are being instituted, and these are being installed across the province.
So what is they? What are we
Okay.
talking about?
I know for a fact from talking to dental offices that these are being installed. I was dealing with personally the College of Dental Surgeons of Saskatchewan.
Okay.
And this is what they've used recommendations for people to start installing these.
Okay, and is that equipment?
They're sizing the equipment, installing equipment based on this table, which is faulty.
Which is provided by SaskHealth?
Yes.
And the dentists are buying this equipment that's faulty from multiple
They
different
don't know
producers?
whether or not it is.
I wasn't done my sentence
Yes.
there. So they buy it from multiple different producers, and it has to meet a certain criteria based on those engineering numbers, is what you're saying.
Yes, but they can call Joe Blow contractor to go and do this and say, okay, I talked to a salesman, this is good, right? That's terrible. First of all, they should have provided the information. If they're going to set the guidelines, it is their obligation to provide proper information. If you go and you look at the APEX, the act that governs APEX, it is clearly stated
Okay,
in
and
there.
I'm not familiar with that act.
Okay, so they're violating their acts and they're doing something that they know is negligent.
Okay.
And people can die because of it, because it's to help prevent deadly disease. And this is the problem. That's a huge problem. Because that's not in the best interest. It's the Saskatchewan Health Authority. They're supposed to be looking after the health of the people. So, we need to get this started. Put these on the file, please, and we'll.
Yeah, I have them. I'll make a
Okay.
copy, and I'm not taking any of your documents because you told me you wanted them all back, so
Well,
you can have them all back.
I have digital copies. I can print this off again. You can take these, and I will add more. This is going to the two files.
You want this back on the other file, and then I'll
No,
start the
this
other
is
file?
going to be These are going to be both for the
Okay.
corporate file for DSR Cares Consulting Incorporated, and also for myself
Okay, so
as well.
I can start a complaint for you as a person. I can't start a complaint for you as a company.
A company, a corporation, a federal corporation is a
Okay,
person under the law.
I understand what you're saying, okay? But you're the one that's making the complaint for me right now, right? And that's why I need the information from you. I don't know how many.
I'm a representative of DSR Cares Consulting. I'm authorized to do so.
Okay, just out of curiosity, how many employees are at DSR Care?
It doesn't matter.
Well, I just want to know how many people are.
It doesn't matter how many employees.
Let me finish.
That's
I
not.
just want to know how many people are authorized to make that.
I am the only one that is authorized to do so.
Okay.
I'm the Chief Executive Officer of DSR Cares Consulting, so I am
Okay.
the only authorized person to make that judgment.
Okay. So
Yes.
you, on behalf of this, want to start this complaint against SaskHealth?
Yes, I, as a representative of DSR Cares Consulting Incorporated, it is in the interests of DSR Cares Consulting Incorporated to have a claim started against the Saskatchewan Health Authority.
Okay. Well, I don't start a claim. I'm going to start an investigation.
Start an investigation.
But I also need, like I said, if you could write down so that I understand it in layman's terms, so that I can follow it, so I can do the investigation,
Yes.
or so that I can get one of my guys to actually go out and talk to SaskHealth and actually do because you understand what like an investigation is, just talking to people, right? And we're trying to get to the bottom of what things are. So
Actually, I have somebody that you can call that will be able to explain this to you.
this,
Yes.
okay,
Yes.
go ahead, state the name and number if you got it.
Her name is Christine Rogers. She works at Cypress Sales in Saskatoon. She was the former president of SHA,
Okay,
and that's the American Society of Heating, Refrigeration, and Air Conditioning Engineer. She actually did work advising the Sask Health Authority, so she is probably the most qualified person in Saskatchewan to speak about this.
okay.
So give her a call tomorrow morning, and she will
Do
explain. to
you have her phone number?
I do not have it with me offhand, but you can look it up in the phone book. Cypress Sales is it's a
She
big-
works for Cypress Sales.
Cypress
and
Sales.
tomorrow is Saturday, right?
Okay. Sure, you can look it up. You can get an email. You can send an email over, or you
Sure,
can
I'll
call
give her
whatever.
a call. If
Yeah.
she's at Cypress Sales, but you don't have a personal number
No,
for her?
I can drop it off. I don't have it here with
Okay,
me. but
I'm just asking. If I thought if you
Yes.
did, you could say it, and then I'd have it on my
Okay.
audio recording, right?
now I'm not speaking in an official capacity anymore, and I would also like, as an individual, to start also a claim against the SHA because they've also interfered with my ability to do things, and this is something that, as a mechanical engineering technologist, I can't do my job
Okay.
without those things.
And they have a complaints department for you to start that complaint.
No, because I can bring a complaint as an individual because I'm complaining about them and their criminal negligence.
Okay, so not really.
Yes, I can.
No.
Why not?
Because we have to be able to show through this investigation that there's criminal negligence. I have to be able to investigate
Well,
the
I'm
fact.
telling you that this is.
And you're saying that you are giving me the complaint for DSR
Cares
Cares Consulting, right?
Yes.
So you're the one making the complaint.
No, DSR Cares Consulting is a person in its own right, and it's made its complaint.
So you want DSR Care Consulting as the complainant on this file, and you want to make a secondary complaint of
No,
you.
I want a second, completely different file. I cannot be on the same file as a corporation. That's not legal. It's a person in its own right. I'm making a complaint.
So you want 3 files.
Yes, one for DSR Cares Consulting, which you were instructed to do so, in official capacity by its representative, and a second file relating to this, coming from myself personally, Dale Richardson. Yes. So 2 files based on this, and then you're gonna have another file based on this coming from Dale Richardson. And those things need to be started today, and I'd like to have the file numbers as well, please.
I can give you the file numbers for this one, and I'm gonna have to do some digging before I start the secondary one. Okay.
You can.
And I also
You got to give me both of them at the same time.
I will give you this file number and this file number, okay? But I want to be able to find out. I need to know a little more information as to what they're doing that constitutes criminal endangerment or criminal.
I just explained it to you. It's reckless disregard, because an engineer who put that together would know exactly what is going on, and if they didn't, they shouldn't be an engineer. Okay, so they know there's no excuse. And if you put out these technical documents, they set the regulations and so forth, and they have these talks, and you speak to Christine Rogers, she is the most qualified person to talk about this. Okay.
Is there anything else? I need my clipboard back, but you can have the pad, okay?
My daughter.
Okay.
The domestic violence charge will be more information to follow.
Okay, so we're going to conclude the statement now then?
Yes, you can walk back into the station, and we'll get the.
Yeah, but you're done providing
No, you can
the
keep
statement now?
recording until we're inside of the station.